Hello everyone, my name is Anna Mojecka and I'm a part of People team in Source Consulting. I would like to welcome all of you on our next webinar, Consultant Skills You Never Thought About. It's our third webinar. If you didn't have a chance to join previous ones, I encourage you to visit our YouTube channel where you can find them. Today, Agnieszka Siekańska and Jakub Bochiński will tell you more about skills that are important for a successful consultant. They're both a part of our Source Consulting business team. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session. Please feel free to write your questions in our Q&A chat during the webinar. We'll try to answer as many of them as possible. In the meantime, I will also send you a short survey, which takes only a few minutes to fill out. Feedback is very important for us and help us organize more valuable events. So, Aga, Kuba, I'm passing my voice to you.
Thank you very much, Anya. Thank you very much for this introduction. And as Anya just said, we are going to talk about consultant skills that you might have never thought about. And please listen carefully to Kuba, because he's going to give you lots of real life examples of how this actually looks like in practice. We divided this webinar into 3 sections. The first one will be like a very short introduction into who we are. If you still feel hungry for knowledge and want to know more, please check out the previous webinars. And then we're gonna talk about the power of soft skills in consulting and give you some examples and tips as to how to actually do it successfully. So let's start from talking about who we are. So we consultants are usually those who go to organizations or individuals to advise them and to actually help them increase efficiency and introduce change. And we assist you, like we assist our clients with that. But there are some misconceptions as to who we are, and Kuba is going to tell you who we are not.
Sure. Hi, guys. So yeah, I've heard lots of myths about consultants and how we work and why actually we get employed by clients to actually do some work for them. I mean, after all, for example, imagine that me as a consultant would be sent to an insurance company to assist them with something. Well, they have 40 years of experience in insurance. Why would they get a guy from outside of their company who doesn't know how they work to come in and actually advise them or anything? And I've heard several times in the past exactly myths like that. Consultants are the kind of people that basically don't know how things are done. They get sent to a client and then advise them, and they just charge the money for that. So what's the point? The point is actually that typically consultants are specializing in a certain area that the client doesn't want to specialize in. So you can imagine a situation where there is this insurance company that would like to implement a new core system, for example, a new IT system. And the trouble is, they know this is going to take about a year or 2. They'll have to build a team that will actually help them do that. It would take them some time to recruit people, teach them, train them, etc., etc. Maybe after a year, they would have a team that will be ready to start implementation. After 2 years, the system is ready, they went live. What do they do with the group of people they built just to create the system? Would they just let them go? Would they merge them and move them into a different part of the company? Well, they don't have any experience in insurance, rather in insurance core systems. So this is where we come in as consultants. We get hired to come in and use our expertise within a small area to help the client finish the job and then go to another client and then assist them with that as well. So this is primarily why there are consultants generally in the market. We are not just telling others how to do their jobs better because we get paid for it. We actually have our own very, very specific expertise.
Yeah, and therefore for that we need lots of skills. And like naturally, we need to be experts in the subject matter. For the work that we do, we need IT knowledge. We need knowledge about insurance market or bank assurance. Maybe we know several languages, we have experience in data analysis and so on, because in the end we are fixers, like we are problem solvers, and we need to solve problems that very often like depend on very specific details. We need this knowledge, but well, let me say that still that's not enough.
And it's not enough because, and let me just warn you guys about something, because you're listening to us, so maybe you are already consultants and you want to learn how to be better at your jobs, or maybe you want to become consultants. A word of warning. When you're looking at the star right in front of you, it says that, you know, we as consultants should be very good advisors and strategists and experts in the subject matter and problem solvers, etc. And it's generally true. This is all the skill set that we would offer as a company to a client, because we're a consulting company. However, now I'm going to focus on the role of a consultant within the business. We have analysts that are, as you can see here on the left-hand side, they're absolute experts in creating analysis. We have amazing IT experts, so you can see them here on the right-hand side as experts in the subject matter, and many, many, many more experts within the certain areas. A consultant's job is slightly different. Our job is actually, and here's the word of warning, not to be the best in either of those, but instead to help facilitate cooperation between all these experts that appear, let's say, in the same room during a meeting. So actually, if you want to become a consultant in the future, one thing you might have to give up is being the best in anything, in any of these 5 things you can see in here. And typically, so again, a word of warning, you will very often position yourself in front of the client and, you know, in your own life as a person who is kind of all right in many things, but is mostly helping others. So you kind of work from the shadows. You kind of work from, you know, take a step back, let others shine. If this is not the kind of thing that you like to do, potentially choose, you know, a different position. You could be an advisor, you could be an analyst, etc., etc. As a consultant, you're there to facilitate.
Yeah, so you might need to give up on this wish to actually be best at one of the skills that appear, or like one of the arms of the star. But there's one skill that is like the super skill we have, and that you can never give up. And that's communication. And that's our super skill. That's like the superpower that actually facilitates all of the rest. And we synchronize like people. We facilitate the flow of of work, of knowledge. Like that there is interaction. There is basically that everything is going on well. And yeah, that's basically the main thing here. And without it, nothing else can actually be as it is, like go well, basically. And therefore, the rest of this webinar is going to be focused on this very skill, on the center of the star, which is how to actually master communication skills in IT consulting. So let's pass to the next section, which is going to be about the power of soft skills. And for to begin with, I would like to say that, well, naturally the very, very first skill you need when it comes to communicating in IT consulting is English. Like in the whole IT industry worldwide, we communicate mostly in English, and this is indispensable when you want to be effective. But still, let's not fall into this trap that if you master English, you're gonna make it as a consultant. Because okay, so you're gonna communicate with your client, that's going to be fine. Most likely, that's not enough.
Yeah, I can actually give an example of that. Just a couple of days ago, I was working with, I was talking to some of our recruiters. And by the way, I'm seeing questions being asked. One is about how to get to our team. We'll get back to it by the end, but I can give you straight away a bit of a behind the scenes look at how our recruitment works. So we have a group of recruiters that talk to one another. I'm one of them. And we actually talked at some point. I could overhear a conversation between two recruiters, one of which was saying, by the way, here is this person who applies to us and they have very strong French language. We are opening a French office soon, so that's a bonus. And then very interestingly, a project manager for a French project came in quickly and said, guys, by the way, just so that you remember as recruiters, for my team, I'm not looking for translators, I'm looking for consultants. So when you recruit, first of all, make sure that these guys have good consulting skills, and secondly, if they speak French. If they have a slightly worse French, but still are pretty good consultants, likely we will take them. But if they are amazing in French, but cannot communicate well with the client, likely we will not. So that's why we decided today we will actually focus. If you're good in French, if you're good in English, if you're good in German, if you're good with different languages, cool. Today we'll try to show you the part that you might be missing, at least to join Solars.
So what does it mean that that you communicate successfully as a consultant? What does it mean for us at Solars? So there are basically two aims of communicating for us, and we are happy if we make our clients see opportunities that they haven't seen before. That's what makes us happy, definitely. And when our communication fosters dialogue that is fruitful for both parties, meaning for us and for the client. And
yeah, so basically, so you can imagine that the archetypal consultant is the kind of person that you can imagine walks into a meeting and the meeting just starts to work. I bet that many of you have been in a meeting in the past where you just sit around there, you have all the right people around the room. There is the IT expert, there's the business expert, there's the project manager. It's like everybody in the room is there that should be able to make a decision or should be able to push the project forward. But still, that doesn't happen. And you end the meeting saying, okay, we'll have another meeting about that. And you already dread the next meeting because you will go in there and you'll bicker about things and you come out and there's still nothing agreed on. Unless there is this, sometimes at least I've found in my experience, often there is this one person that at the right moment when you are in the middle of an argument or in the middle of a pickle will stand up and just start drawing something on the board. And basically just do something super simple like, is that what you guys meant? Or we'll start just making a list of things that people have said and said. So just summarizing what you guys said, I think you kind of all agreed on this or that, right? And it sounds like the guy has done literally nothing. He's just sitting in the room and just basically repeating what other people have said. But I found oftentimes that this is exactly what is needed. People sometimes very often agree on something, but they just need to hear it spoken the way they all would agree. The idea in the room would coalesce around what this guy has just said, just reiterating what other people have said before. Or there is a drawing which basically finally shows people, oh yes, this is what we have all been talking about. Now we have a visual language to talk about things that we all agree on. And if you were to think, thanks to whom this entire room worked, or who you could remove without destroying the meeting, unfortunately, oftentimes you would say the consultant can go because he doesn't really contribute much. But if you get him out of the room, all of a sudden, this superpower is gone from the room and you go back into bickering. Some people actually have these superpowers themselves. So even if they are not consultants, they might be still very good communicators. But I found often, and our company has found, that hiring consultants, so making sure there is a person with a superpower in the room, basically guarantees that the project is going to work. And that's why we seek for consultants. That's why we want to employ them. And that's why we teach people how to become consultants in our company as well.
Yeah, and why? I mean, why does this person actually bring that very thing to the table? So basically, because thanks to this skill that consultants usually bring in, we can actually help people break down complex phenomena so that we make sure everybody understands what we are talking about, so that they understand the project's objectives, that they understand the risk that is like that goes together with that. That basically there is no misunderstanding. That we can actually find some kind of a common ground that everyone, like each stakeholder and everybody in the room, feels comfortable with. And now, yeah, this is skill. This is kind of a superpower, as we said. Well, let me say it this way. When you think of superheroes, there are superheroes like Superman. They just have it given by birth. Like they have the superpowers just like this. And some people have this gift. They are just very good communicators. Some maybe are more like, say, Spider-Man. They need a trigger, and then maybe this webinar is going to be a kind of a trigger for you, so that you start noticing that you actually do have those powers there inside. But I think, well, this is my opinion, but I think we agree on that it's more like Batman-like thing with communication. Basically, you can learn it. So step by step, you can actually master that and become a superhero in communicating. And we're going to give you some tips at the end. But there's also something very important here to remember, that when we talk about communication, like when we use this word, we don't really mean what we are never going to tell you what to say. You need to know what you want to say. It's about how you say it, how you transmit your message. And let me just remind you this. This is a quick reminder. There is a rule of so-called McRabian's rule, and that actually 93% of our communication overall is non-verbal. So we communicate with our body language, we communicate with the tone of voice, and then go the language skills, the precision of how we express ourselves, and also our active listening capabilities. And we communicate in different forms, also in many situations. So we communicate by calls with clients, emails, meetings, workshops, but also coffee breaks, cigarette breaks, all the informal situations we find ourselves in.
And I totally agree with Agnieszka. And I think like the most important thing about it is that it is a conscious decision whether to make use of it. And you'll find often that consulting companies make this a conscious decision. So we as consultants, we fly around the world. I think the best representation of why this is important is that even just today we had a conversation with the entire team on when are we going to go back to flying. And we were in the middle of a pandemic where borders were shut, and fortunately our company is kind of agile enough and tech savvy enough that literally from one day to another we quickly switched to working remotely, and literally none of our projects worldwide from Japan to US have slowed down even a tiniest bit, which begs the question, so if you can do it remotely, why would you do it in the office with somebody? And that's because we make a conscious decision to make use of what Agnieszka was talking about, which is that non-verbal communication is super important. And why? You can see it even today with our conversation. 2 days ago, when they were our admins were asking us, guys, do you want to use cameras when you talk to people during the webinar or not? And both me and Agnieszka immediately jumped in saying like, yeah, obviously, come on, we want you guys to see us. We cannot see you, which is a massive shame, because I would love to see your reactions, whether you're bored, whether you're interested. I cannot see you now, which basically doesn't give me all this wealth of information. However, I hope that at least from my body language, how I behave, how I talk, how excited I am that I can actually talk here, you can hear far more than I could ever tell you in voice. And you also find that when you work as a consultant and you go to talk to your clients, you also find that this gives so much additional information. I mean, you can imagine that the client says, yeah, let's do it. Or you can have a client saying, yeah, let's do it. And you can tell straight away something is wrong. So you can address it, start trying to figure it out and get into additional conversations. And don't get me even started on, talking over coffee in a client's office, etc. You get so much information from that.
Yeah, so Cuba loves organizing meetings, like in the kitchen, and I agree wholeheartedly. But I would like to say to that's great. But we have to always stay focused. Like it's easy, like in the kitchen over coffee and so on. It's always easy for the conversation to get a little bit loose, and we have to stay on target. And we are like we are at client office for a reason, and we have a mission to fulfill. And this mission is actually to find the best fitting solution for this specific client in his specific situation.
Yeah, and I'll be 100% honest with you guys. It is sometimes really difficult for very talkative people to stay focused. I'm one of the talkative guys, so yeah, I can go into like a kitchen in the client's office and start talking about things, and we will make friends and everything, and we will enjoy each other's company. But I might sometimes get a little bit sidetracked, and then somebody has to bring me back, or I have to kind of kick myself and say, look, you've got a mission here to do. So even though you're talking over a coffee break, let's try and get back to talking about our jobs, and what we're here for. But it is still important to use all these opportunities because, I mean, I don't think I have to tell you guys a lot about how you and us would open up if only we had a chance to go somewhere on the side, have a coffee, have a lunch, etc. And I can tell you things that obviously I, for example, cannot tell you in a live stream which is recorded. So that's why there's a power in using these opportunities as well.
Yeah, so if you want to know more about it, well, we're gonna proceed to the next section, which is examples and tips.
Practical part.
Practical. What is the skills in IT consulting that you never thought about? And basically, those are like some kind of sub-skills, communication skills, basically. Many different communication skills that we as consultants need to apply in our day-to-day life.
Yeah, and we'll give you a couple of case studies now that we'll go through, and I'll ask you guys to participate. We won't hear you, but I'll be giving you a couple of cases that you could encounter as a consultant, and we'll ask you to consider which of the options that I'll present to you would actually go for. And then we'll discuss quickly whether this is something that we would do or whether this is something that we wouldn't do. Right, so yeah, let's crack on. So one of the positions that you might find yourself in as an IT consultant is sometimes what we call a dedicated therapist. So let's imagine a situation that you could encounter as working as a consultant. In the next slide, yeah. So let's imagine, you go to a client and your client says, guys, let's imagine you're working on the portal, on the website. And the client says, you know what, guys, I want to have a bunch of exclamation marks here. That's what we've had here so far in the past. It works really well. And actually, I have an idea. Let's have exactly 2. I want one red and one magenta, for boys and girls, let's say. So 2 sample answers that you could reply with. The first one. OK, so shall I write it down as a system requirement? You pay for it, so if you want it, sure, we're fine. We'll do it for you. And the second option is, but why? Could you tell me more about your idea? How would it bring us closer to achieve that? What is it that you actually want to achieve? So have a think about it for a moment. If you were an IT consultant visiting a client's office, which of the 2 you think in this circumstance you should reply? If you want to actually post, you can write it in the Q&A section here in the chat window or question window. We'll be able to see. If you have like a third option, you can write it there as well, and I'll be able to publish it so everybody can see. Okay, so without further ado, the correct answer for us at Solars would be to go for the second option rather than the first option. And there's a huge difference here between something that you call consulting and something you call body leasing. Body leasing is basically a situation where there's a client that just needs additional IT people, and they just hire a software house, or they hire body lease consultants. So basically, somebody would go there and be leased so be borrowed from a company as an IT specialist for some time. And typically they wouldn't be able to advise the client on much. The client would just say, I want this A and B to be done, and you would just do A and B and be paid for it. We work as a consulting company, so we actually think our job is to be there to help the client, to understand what they're doing, to understand what they're trying to achieve, and then hopefully be able to guide them towards that.
So naturally, it's a huge challenge to have complete strangers explain to you like the biggest pains that they experience at work, and to have like the trust, and also like that they follow you when you propose to them innovative solutions. And that's probably like the best difficult part of consulting job, which is to actually help clients leave their comfort zone. And that's never that's never an easy task. And as we said, like our task is always to find this case-specific best matching solution, and this also like implies, well, giving some guidance, healing things that maybe need to be healed, and then the real problem comes when what happens when a client insists that they want something like those exclamation marks that might actually be bad for them. What shall we do then? Well, the answer is always active listening. So we never like just take in the information, that's it. We never just, say, okay, whatever you want, that it's your money. What we do is like, we actually actively process it. We make sure that we understand what it is about, that we make sure it makes sense. We ask questions for clarification, we verify it, and so on. So we always try to go beyond what they say and get to the reason why they're actually saying that, because there must be some pain, some reason, something that doesn't let them sleep at night, some kind of pain that we need to heal, and that's what we want to focus on.
Yeah, and I think like give you an example of a situation that you could easily appreciate a consultant would do a good job in. Imagine that a company hires you because you're a consultant on riding a bike. You know how to ride a bike, the client doesn't. And imagine exactly the same situation translated into that case. Imagine that the client hires you, they say, okay, here's my bike, and then they sit down on a pedal rather than on a sit. And they sit down on a pedal and say, okay, so I figured like you have to sit somewhere, but I don't know how to make the bike move forward. How should I move my body to make sure that the bike goes forward? And you could just say, okay, you want me to ask you how to move your body while sitting on a pedal to move the bike forward? It makes no sense, but you pay for it. I'll do it for you. You basically have to hire a second person who's gonna sit on the second pedal, and then you go up when he goes down, and he goes up when you go down, and you will very slowly, dragging your feet, maybe move the whole bike forward. But if you're a good consultant, what you would actually do is do the opposite. Start with, okay, what do you actually want to achieve? Please tell me. Do you actually want to move the bike forward by sitting on a pedal because for some reason, or is your goal just to move the bike forward? Because if it is, as a consultant, my job is to advise you to just change the method that you're using. Sit on a bike. You don't need to hire a second person, spend money on that, etc., and then go forward. Now, maybe it might take us actually a long time. Was that? Oh yeah, maybe install buy a seat. Yeah. it's gonna the funny thing is it's gonna take us less time to explain that. So potentially the client would pay us less for that. And we could charge the client more for spending a lot of time on explaining to him how many people he needs to hire to move the bike forward in the least efficient way possible. However, we strongly believe that this is where we as consultants do our best jobs. We tell you how to achieve something, and you'll come back to us later on to ask for advice again and again and again and again, because you trust us at some point and you know that you can always rely on a good advice. Right, so let's move on to the next example. This time, by the way, I can see that there's questions coming in. I don't know if you guys know, you can vote on questions as well. So if you're very interested in us answering a specific question, you can like it and it will show up on the top for us. So let's try again another case. This time, IT consultant as a makeup-free pop star. Let's see the example. And you'll see why a makeup-free thing is here. So imagine this time that the client is saying, okay, so, you know, you guys, we hired you to increase sales over the next decade. So I hope to see the system for it implemented during the next month before you guys go. Sounds reasonable enough. And what are we going to apply in that situation? We have two options. One, our experience shows that it's really impossible to predict all the obstacles that we're going to encounter in the future. So many of these obstacles will appear after the go live, so after the software starts to work and after we're gone. We address this, and that's why we offer a maintenance service. You know, we take care of the future problems. Or the second option, okay, you hired us as experts. We'll try to predict all problems that will appear within the next 10-year frame of time. This product will be used, and, you know, address them before it even gets deployed. Sure. Which one do you think we should do here? I'm actually interested. So you can guys go and pop questions in there and vote for answers. I'm curious if, so I'll publish the questions that you are bringing in so everybody can see it as well. So the first one is, if a consultant is not supposed to be an expert in the field, how is he supposed to give advice? Okay, I'll go back to it later. So out of these two questions here, I'm really curious, which ones did you think we should do? Now, I'll tell you, maybe not every company would do the same. I can tell you what we would do. So we have an answer 1. And I'm happy to say, yeah, spot on. This is exactly what at least our company would do. And that's why we call this section a makeup-free pop star. We basically want to tell you what we think, and honestly, and without hiding anything. We think it is really, 10 years into the future in IT world, it's really impossible to make solid predictions, both in terms of sales and in terms of, how our systems will perform, etc. Likely you will do a couple of upgrades in between. It's better for us to tell you the honest truth, which is, we can do everything in our power to make sure that you have a successful software launching in a month. And we can offer you a maintenance service. You can rehire us later on to fix something or improve something, etc. And we'll take care of your future problems when they appear, when they are well recognized. And we will not try and fool you that right now we are such amazing experts, such amazing pop stars, that we will actually predict all the problems way into the future, and we would never do that.
Yeah. So as Kuba says, like, if we are superheroes, that, well, maybe we are, because we might have saved 1 or 2 clients, let's say. But if we are superheroes, then we are superheroes who do not wear masks and definitely no makeup, which is, our products are of high quality and naturally our work is valued, but our biggest value and actually also our strength is transparency, and we always try to be authentic. And we believe that actually what comes from it is that actually we can work as a team very well. Is that this is like a basis for future trust with the client, that we can actually foster, like, it facilitates like fruitful collaboration afterwards. And I would say it this way, that those, let's say there is some misconception according to which successful, effective communication is somehow identified with manipulation. But while manipulation is actually based on lies and on searching for your own benefit, what we actually attempt to do is to build it on truth, always on truth and transparency, and actually always search for the benefit of our client. And we can, it's a bit like this, that we can do it because we are not salesmen. And that's a little bit of a myth that is there about consultants. We have the right, and I can tell you that it does happen in reality. We can also advise the client not to buy something when it's not going to bring any value to them, when, well, salesmen naturally can't. So that's what, like, transparency, authenticity is definitely our biggest, one of our biggest values. But just like a short reminder at the end, it's also not about being, there are also some limitations, meaning there are some, it's not about saying like too much. It's not about pretending you're friends when you are not, and you just got to know each other. So it's about natural, and it's about building relationship gradually as well.
Yeah, and if you ever join this company, you'll find it pretty soon. I found it really soon that I was beginning to act a bit like a salesman in one situation, and one of my colleagues actually came and said, like, "Come on, why are you like presenting everything in like positive light?" I was like, "I don't know." It's like, kind of is positive, and he was like, "Yeah, but there's like a couple of really big problems in here." It's like, "Yeah, but I kind of didn't want to like mess up." I don't know. It's kind of like, I'm a nice guy. I like positivity, and he's like, "Yeah, but in this job, I mean, you gotta be transparent. If something is wrong, just say it outright." And I'll have to say, I know not every company works like that. And you might be working, for example, right now in a company that doesn't do that, that sugarcoats things. If you come in and work with us, you'll have to change your mindset a little bit. Be very upfront about things that do not work quite well, both with your colleagues, with your managers, with your PMs, with your clients. Just be upfront about things, because then you can fix problems. By the way, there was a very good question, so I'll refer to it straight away because it was related to the previous slide. If a consultant is not supposed to be an expert in a field, how he or she is supposed to give advice? In the bike example, that expert would be rather a software developer equivalent than a consultant, from what I took in the beginning. Spot on. I think that's a very good point. See, I'm being transparent and saying that that I'm wrong sometimes as well. You're very right. I think I kind of put two together. So a consultant's job would be to be the person to notice that it is better to ask, because you could figure out an expert could just say, okay, I'm going to improve the way you are sitting on your pedals to make sure that you basically do something differently. You want to sit on the pedals and go up and down. Okay, I'll make sure that going up and down is faster. The consultant would be the person to ask, okay, but what is it that you're actually hoping to achieve? Are you hoping to, I don't know, move the bike forward by sitting on a pedal because sitting on a pedal is important for you? Or is important to you just to move the bike forward, and the pedals are regardless of the method? Because then I'm going to bring in an expert who actually knows how to operate the bike, and he will help you by putting you on the sit rather than on a pedal. But it's a very good point. I kind of put two together in here. By the way, don't be surprised. Looking at the questions coming in, I'll be deleting some of the ones that regarding our cases, so that things don't get like your second option and your first option. I will remove them so that later on we don't make a mistake of what option you chose the next time around.
Mm-hmm.
So moving forward, another position that you might find yourself in as a consultant is what we call a teacher with insight. So let's do another case. So by the way, this is a real case. This is real. Some of the other ones we kind of simplified things or decided to synthesize some of our experiences. This is a real case we had in the past. So imagine that your client says, regarding the process of code review, if you're not into that much into IT, every time a piece of code is written, when programmers, developers write software, later on, what happens in some companies is other software developers review it, check whether this is correct or not. So this is called the code review. So regarding the process of code review, well, we don't really have much time in this company, so let's just skip this phase and maybe just have, maybe one senior developer look over the code before we push it to production. Pushing to production means that basically this is going to be live code, the code that you and me interact with on the internet, for example, or that works behind the scenes in a big company. And we can always fix it later, right? So what are you supposed to say to that? Option number 1 or option number 2, you can vote again. Option number 1, okay, well, we've seen it done 6 times in similar companies, but we typically advise to change the approach, and let me explain to you how. Or we could say, we would typically never do it this way, but you're right, the pressure is on, let's do it. Which of those 2 options do you think we would take? I'll give you a couple of seconds again. Again, vote in our Q&A section. So far, everybody was right every time. So it sounds like we have really good people here with us. So in this situation that we have right now, what we would do and what we have actually done in the past is we really had a client who said, let's skip code review. And we could even say, and we did talk about it, saying that, okay, there are companies that don't do code review. Basically, everything that they write is supposed to be straight away perfect. We believe it's better to teach our clients sometimes how to do things better, to provide them insights that we've learned across the entire industry, and explain to them that even though, yes, it would speed things up, it would make things simpler, and even they take the blame for it. This is what they suggested. They're okay with cutting corners. We would still try and advise them to do the things properly. And we told them, look, I think you should introduce the whole procedure for code review. It will slow the project down a little bit. We will get delivered slightly less initially, but over time you'll see that it actually pays off because there's less fixing that we have to do. There's less bugs that we'll have to address, and everything will just work much smoother. And on top of that, we actually have a system we built ourselves, a tool called Goku. You can find it on Solar's website, which actually makes code review partially automatic. So we can speed it up a little bit. But you're still going to take a little bit of a hit in terms of how long it takes to develop right now.
Yeah, so what do you think about it? Like, because maybe you're still students, or maybe you finished your school some time ago. But when you think about school and studying, you're gonna find those, if you are lucky, but you probably have been, you're gonna find those some persons that actually kind of open your eyes and broaden your perspective. And those teachers are like people like we would like to be like for our clients. Like, we cannot live your life for you, but we can definitely give you a new view on it, no? And maybe we can correct some things that you've been doing incorrectly so far. And naturally, like coming back to the example that Kuba just showed you, we naturally always listen to our clients and their ideas, and we always have an open ear for the suggestions and for what they actually propose, because they know their business and they know what they are talking about. No, but also it is so that we might not be the best experts in the field, as Kuba said, but in a sense we are experts, and we've learned many things during like the years we've been in the industry. All of us have some expertise in building IT solutions for insurance companies or banks, and we've seen many things work and not work. And this knowledge we would like to share with our clients. And I would like to also say here that, well, we are not only teachers, but we are also students ourselves. So we have always this perspective that we learn new things on every project we accomplish. Like we always try to build new skills, and we always reflect on the experience that we made, and we apply like the lessons in the future work.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with Agnieszka. One thing that is worth stressing is, as a consultant, you're often in a very privileged position with regard to your client. Because, for example, I have a pleasure of working in a fantastic team which works with tens of different clients, literally every month, and we talk to so many people. So we basically have insight into tens of different companies, how they work, how they operate, what are the internal processes, etc. If any of the employees in either of these companies cannot go to a second company, like one insurance company employee cannot go to a different company and say, how do you guys do that? Well, they compete against one another. So obviously they're not going to share that knowledge. But we're there in both companies, so we can learn from both sides and basically learn as ourselves. We would never, ever share the secrets of a company with another company, but we learn by absorbing all these different strategies and processes and ways of approaching topics. So then we go to the 51st company. We've seen it. We've done that. We can learn from the experience that we have working with so many different people instead of just working in one place. Right, so moving on, next role for a consultant. We often have to also be a strategic diplomat. So let's roll the case. That's gonna be a slightly easier one, but we figured let's put it here anyways. So imagine that your client enters into a bit of a conflict with you, and regarding how to make the website better. Let's say you decided that you don't want to do the exclamation marks red and pink because it's sexist, and you will never do that. So one thing that you can say is, come on, this is how you did it in HTML in the 90s. Come on, it's going to be a waste of time. Or you can say, okay, I don't have enough information yet to get behind this and see how it will help to improve companies' efficiency. But can you tell me more about what you're proposing? So I can give you a second to figure out which one to do here, but I think this one is pretty simple to guess. The first one in this situation is basically just rude. So we wouldn't do that, obviously. The second one is then what we would go for, because as Agnieszka said earlier, even if the client has the weirdest idea, a bunch of exclamation marks in different colors, and it's like, come on, why would you do that? And still, there is a point, like something is wrong. The client looks at the website we've done for him, for example, a portal we've done for them. It looks amazing to all of us. And he says that something is wrong with it. Maybe because he knows his target much better than we do. Maybe he knows that there is something that didn't quite work in the past. He doesn't know how to express it exactly, especially in IT terms, but he knows there is something wrong. So what we can do is go and ask, try to get it out from him, name it correctly so that we can pass this information on to our IT specialists, for example. But to do that, we have to be restrained and polish our style, which Aga is going to tell you more about.
Yeah, so that's true that the case was easy, it was simple in terms of, okay, would you go for rather A or B, for which option you would go to? Naturally, we're gonna choose the second one. But the message that comes from it is that actually one thing that you have to accept as a consultant is that in the business world, there will always be conflicts. And those conflicts are understood more as conflicts of interests rather than conflicts between specific people. And it's natural because every stakeholder will have their own priorities on things that different focus on fears and just a natural kind of an area they're interested in. And diplomacy is an art. So in a sense, we need to be kind of an artist to put all of it together and to actually use this tension to be creative and to be constructive. And it's important that we remember that in the end, we are very often in a situation when we talk to managers, and those people are they are decision makers by the matter of fact. So they are very accustomed to analyzing options and deciding for one or another. And it's the approach we take is to go to them very often and just say, okay, look, there is your option, there is my option. Let's analyze the two and let's choose the better one, or maybe a third one that is going to be like a result of a combination of the two. And how we achieve it? We achieve it with opening a discussion instead of closing it. And if you focus on those two, the first two statements are actually closing the discussion. If you hear somebody say, it's going to be a waste of time. Yeah, okay, maybe you get the message that that's going to be a waste of time, therefore a waste of money, and we are not going to be engaged into it because that's not going to bring any value, no? So theoretically, it can have its point. Only theoretically, because we always encourage clients to actually talk to us. And if you use a style that closes the discussion up front, you're never gonna get that. And if you open it, like if you use the style and forms that actually encourage them to talk to you, to tell you more about the solution, why they want this and not another thing, you're gonna probably find a solution that is going to be best. And there are some things to keep in mind here is that usually it is so that here our truth isn't the only truth. And also we need to ask questions. We need to check assumptions we are making, and definitely polish our style, because there is no rule, like no room for being rude, no? And in conflict situations, our task is always to bring value out of it. And then I believe we can move to the next one.
Yeah, so this time I'll let Agnieszka tell you more about the role of constructive challenger, because I think she told me about that once beautifully.
Thank you very much. So yeah, to sum up everything that we've said before, we can say that actually the role of a consultant is to be a constructive challenger. And there is a nice insight about it coming from the area of sales, from the book Challenger Sale. And they divided salesmen into 5 categories, out of which 2 that are shown here on the screen are going to be important for us. One of them is relationship builder, so the person that focuses a lot on building great relationship with the clients, so being very open, generous with their time, and so on, so that this relationship flourish. And the other one being the challenger, which is the person who actually has expertise in the area, they understand their client's business, and they might disagree with some decisions that has been taken by the other party, and they take control of the discussion. They also challenge and confront the ideas that come to them from the client. And yeah, we want to state this clear, that being a diplomat, being open and being polite does not mean being a conformist. So it doesn't mean just working on the relationship and, taking care that nobody gets a little bit stressed here. But however, we do We do both, I would say. So we build a relationship. We focus a lot on that. But because we want to build trust and we want this relationship to be a great ground for actually further on being a challenger, being the person that actually brings in change, and being the person that actually, basing on the mutual trust that you have with the client, can actually suggest some innovations, suggest solutions that the client might have never thought about. And yeah, so it's a little bit like this, that when you only focus on building a relationship, you are very, very much concerned about being invited into client's comfort zone, no? And what we actually want is to break them out of it. And when you are like, when you focus on this relationship and want the client to be satisfied, you might forget that what you actually want to achieve is to bring biggest value to them. And they might not feel comfortable with the idea at the beginning. And so the job is to actually get to it gradually. No?
But then at the same time, don't make a mistake that that I think many salesmen have made. If you read this book, for example, I know people that read that book and got the message out of it that they should be aggressive with their customers. That's totally not our approach. It's not about challenging them on everything and saying like, why don't you do that? You're pushing them for a sale or pushing them to introduce something they don't want to do. That's not how to address that. I think we'll be moving on because we're near the end of our time. A couple of more things that we wanted to show you guys about consultant jobs is, first of all, that often IT consultants are also cross-field translators, because you need to know your audience. And I'll give you again a very quick example. You can imagine that your client is asking you to explain an architectural solution that you proposed. And so this is going to be a very, very tricky case that I'll ask you. So I'm very upfront about it. I'm curious, you can vote here as well. I think that this is going to be our last case. And then we'll be slowly wrapping it up and answering your questions. I hope you can stay with us a couple more minutes. So imagine again that your client is asking you to explain a solution that you proposed. And one thing you could say as an IT consultant is, okay, we're going to integrate our batch processing module and synchronize it with your current solution so that you'll be sending CSV files to an external SFTP server when your servers aren't so loaded. Or another thing you could say is, well, the system is going to send out the files by itself at night, so it doesn't impact daily work efficiency. Okay. I'm really curious, actually, which of these two you guys think one should say in this circumstance. So you can start writing. I'll give you 5 seconds to send what you're saying. And then I'll say what we would say actually in that circumstance. Okay, I hope it's sent. I know it actually gets to us with a bit of a delay. So what we would actually do is choose the message according to who we are talking to. Because oftentimes, if you talk to a tech leader on the side of the client, he doesn't want you to say the system is going to send out the files by itself, and he knows that. He understands how the system works. He needs the details of how it exactly is going to work. So either you say that, or you talk to your experts and pass over the information, or send an expert. But basically, this person wants specific technical information. Or the second option, sometimes you talk to a manager, and then they want the second option. They don't understand the intricacies, and they're not interested in the intricacies. They just want to know that the system is going to not impact daily work efficiency, and that's the information they need to get. I think we can go to the next slide. This is it because we're slightly running out of time. Whoa, somebody said both. Nice, guys, you're way too good. We need to quickly get into your questions about working with us. basically, what we call that is being an intelligent tailor, that you have to tailor your message to who you're talking to. And you'll find yourself often in situations where you have an even more difficult case where you have both a business person, a manager, and an IT person in the same room, and you need to tailor your message to make sure that it fits with what they can and understand.
Yeah, so basically, we very often act as translators. So we translate between business and IT. So in order to make sure that this communication actually flows and that everybody gets what the other person is saying, because we have different, like people in the room will have different expertise, and they're gonna understand things differently with different like depth, let's say. And so as an like one thing is to understand what person you are talking to, but then the next step would be to actually identify what is their motivation, what are the benefits and risks that are like very specific to their case, what are like what is like the competition that is like targeted exactly at them, and so on, so that we can actually bring the biggest value to this very specific stakeholder group that we are talking to, no? And if you want to be successful in that, when tailoring your message, you need to ask yourself some questions and try to answer them like as well as you can, which is, who's actually my audience? Is this audience like sufficient? Do I have all the stakeholders gathered, key stakeholders gathered here? What is the message I'm trying to convey to them? What are like the interdependencies that I need to be aware of? No? How does it like align with the overall goal and overall mission of the company, for example? No? So those questions you need to ask when you prepare the message that you're going to dedicate to this very specific person or group of persons. And I believe we can go like past to the last slide, basically almost last of this section.
Yeah. So one thing that obviously when you're a consultant, one thing that you really, I mean, if you want to join us, if you like to have your desk in the office that you work in, you might want to consider other options. If you want to have a desk in a specific location in the world, then you might also want to consider other options. Being a consultant means living the change. At least that's in our company. You need to be super flexible. You come into an office and there's somebody sitting at your desk, and you just keep moving and sit at another desk because somebody just came back from the company that they have the client they worked with. You might be working tomorrow in Germany, and in 2 weeks time in France, and in a month's time in Japan, and then somewhere else as well. You have to be very open to very quick and constant change between projects, between offices, between positions and roles in the company. If you're not, you know, so many other really cool jobs, but this one just demands that.
Yeah,
I think Agnieszka has even a true story just from a couple of days ago regarding that.
Yeah, so basically we live the change and we teach others to live the change. And we can share some like experiences that we personally made. And for me, for example, like at the very beginning of my second month in the company, at the end of the week, I was like, it was confirmed to me that on a Sunday I was leaving for Germany, and I stayed there for like 2 months long. No, I didn't plan it, I didn't know about it, but I was, I'm like a kind of person that loves it, and the change actually keeps me motivated. So I believe if you're like me, you're gonna love it. Like you're gonna feel comfortable at it, and you're gonna be motivated to come to work every day because there will be something new coming.
And I can straight away like mix the things. I can tell you my story, and then also reply to one of the questions you're asking. Do we work in Agile? Yes, we work in Agile. Basically, every single project that we run is an Agile project, and mostly Scrum, but also Kanban. And the whole idea for us is we try to adapt to you know, inspect and adapt just about everything that we encounter. That's and Agile is introduced throughout the entire company. Every single person in Solaris works in Agile, including legal team and support teams and others as well. So anywhere if you join us, expect to work in Agile, and you have to be very Agile because you will keep changing roles as well as it is customary to do, for example, in Scrum, that you're just a part of one team. You would never be assigned just a single role, for example, just a tester. You'd be one of the number of people who can perform a role together as a team, and one day you might be testing things, next day you might be designing things, and you'll alternate between those. I can tell you my story. I came to Solaris, and then after a couple of months of training, I became a member of a team. 2 weeks later, I became one of the leaders of a small sub-team. And then literally the next day, they came to me and said, you're going to be the leader of the entire team of 30 people. And at that point, I didn't even know 100% what the team was doing. But they figured, okay, you're right for the role. You know how to kind of group together people around an idea. So you do that, and somebody else is going to do something else. And then a couple of weeks later, we actually switched roles with a colleague of mine, and he became the head of the team, and I went back to doing something else. And I went to another project, came back. You have to be living the change basically permanently. And I think we can move on. This is just a quick summary of all the skills that we think that you would need to be with us. And as I said, we are currently looking for people that already have these skills or that can already demonstrate these skills. So if you are from some of the examples we showed you in the past, we just wanted to tell you that we think that to achieve those, it is a conscious decision to act a certain way in the situations you will find yourself in. So you can train even in the companies that you are currently in, or if you're finishing your university, still doing projects, etc. Position yourself in this situation where you act as a translator, when you challenge constructively, when you're diplomatic about things. I'm going from the bottom to the top. When you teach other people basing on your insight, when you are transparent and authentic, and when you sometimes act as a dedicated therapist and help others. And above everything, you have to be used to living the change.
So I believe now it's time to answer your questions finally.
Mm-hmm. If you have any more, just keep sending them. So the top questions we have is, how can I get to your team? From Thomas. Thomas, to get to our team, best thing, go to our website, Solaris Consulting, just Google it. There is a section for careers over there. Have a look at what's on offer currently. Currently, we will hire mostly, primarily people from the roles that are described there. So have a read. If you want to go to consulting, just choose one of the business roles. I think there's I don't know, 13, 15 different roles that you can apply for. Make sure that you fit with the description there, and send in your application, and we'll be very happy to review it and hopefully get you in. Our company is growing super fast, and we want to bring in as many good people as we can. So we are very, very keen on you joining us if you have the right skills. If we don't currently have a position that could be interesting that we could offer you, but you have an interesting CV anyways, we will likely just save it on the site if you agree to it, obviously, and contact you later when we have new openings and new projects. What else is there? Did you work in Agile? I hope that I answered that already. And I'm a fresh graduate from the IT sector. How can I become a solution architect consultant? Is there a specific career path? Ah, that's interesting. Fresh graduate from the IT sector. I'm curious if you mean from the IT university, or do you mean that you've finished work previously somewhere in the IT sector? But basically, so we have some solution architects and consultants. How we typically, on the IT side of things, there are roles of people who mix together very specialist knowledge, expert knowledge in IT, and some consulting skills as well. We have positions for solution architects as well. They're pretty high up. So if you are one of solution architects with some proven experience, please do apply. We often look for experienced people. If you don't have that much experience yet, have a look at what we have on offer in IT department in our career section. We don't really have departments, but you know what I mean. Have a look at the IT jobs. If you fit any of the bills in there, there is certainly a place to grow with Solars. We are very keen on getting, cool, active, creative people into the company and then helping them to grow into the right position with time.
And I might add.
IT university, okay.
And I might add to it that actually, if you are interested in exploring the positions at Solars, that I would like to remind you that we had a webinar about it that actually describes all the paths that we have and specifies them a little bit better. And also we have one about Agile that we work in. So if for those who are actually interested in working in Agile, we also explain this in one of the webinars.
And just saying, so I can see that Adrian wrote IT University. So yeah, if you just finished university, I don't think you will at this point have enough experience for being a solution architect or consultant with us. However, you can certainly apply for a software developer job. Even if we don't have something very specific to your skills, give it a try. You might have something that will catch our eye. Certainly, if you are a Java developer with some foreign language skills, then we'd be very keen to have you with us as well. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I hope we explained to you well enough what is it like to be a consultant at Solars Consulting, and some of the tips and tricks of the trade that we've picked up over the time. If you wanted to join us, I would be super keen to have you sitting next to us pretty soon. And bear in mind also that we have offices in many locations, not only in Warsaw, but also in Lublin, Poznań, and opening several, Cologne in Germany, Tokyo in Japan, and then opening a couple more offices soon as well.
And if you have any more questions, feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to answer them in case you have them.
Yep, placeholders for you guys. Hope we see you soon. Thanks a lot.
So thank you very much.